So without further ado, we have our next group, Ms. C.T. Harris. She'll be introducing our third presentation from the Palm River group. C.T.
I'm not that tall. Greetings, everyone. Um, I'd like to say I have the pleasure of introducing our third group, who had the privilege of researching Progress Village, Claremelle, and Palm River. Yeah, let's give it up. Thank you. Thank you. That's my amen corner right there. So let me just say this. It was not an easy task, but I'd like to refer to a quote. If they say it's impossible for them, not you. And I'd like to say I'm so proud of this team for the work and dedication that created such an amazing outcome. And they all aspired to accomplish this utopia. And I think it's imperative because they had to deal with a lot of feedback. They had to work together, collaborate, but the outcome that they created, I'm confident that you all will be proud of. And so first, I'd like to introduce Miss Ashley Foxworth, who is a passionate educator from the Tampa Bay area, committed to fostering educational excellence for Hillsborough County's at-risk and underserved communities. She holds a bachelor's degree in elementary education and also has obtained a master's degree in educational leadership. Next, we have Ms. Jasmine Butler, who is a certified financial planner with Edward Jones Investments, partnering with families and businesses to organize, grow, and protect their wealth while navigating life's moments. Lastly, we have Mr. Ron Ulmer, who is a longtime resident of Tampa Bay and a native of the Progress Village, Palm River area. Aside from his role as a data analytics manager with JP Morgan Chase, he sits on the Black Leadership Forum Steering Committee, provides professional mentorship to Black trading analysts in the Brazil markets, and serves on the Stetson University Graduate Program Advisory Board. Now, the moment you've all been waiting for. Please give a warm welcome for these three phenomenal leaders.
In the mid 1900s, a dream began to take form, a dream of a new community for Tampa's Black citizens, one which offered well-constructed homes at reasonable prices in a wholesome community established with pride. More simply, these were people in search of better living conditions, people in search of opportunity, people in search of change. So what is a community without its people? It all began just beyond the southern shores of a waterway in unincorporated Hillsborough County. In the late 1940s and early 1950s, Palm River was a rural area consisting of cattle operations across 20 plus family and dairy farms. By the mid 1950s, Claremelle City was developed to support the expansion of retirement and working class families in the area. As we entered the early 1960s, determined souls sought to create one of the earliest Black suburbs, just beyond former meeting houses of the Ku Klux Klan, an area now known as Progress Village. Although many of these first families are now deceased, their homes still stand filled with memories left behind for generations to come. And in those memories, we find the early chapters of the greater Palm River story.
The Greater Palm River Action Plan is a culmination of community interactions, meetings, field study assessments, and meetings with the Progress Village Civic Council. These intentional conversations delved into past histories about affordable housing, the affordable housing unit that was constructed in 1958. Our research document showed that founding residents like the honorary Emmanuel P. Johnson was the true pioneer of Progress Village in the area of 2016 and strived to, Emmanuel P. Johnson was a true pioneer of Progress Village for that area, and in 2016, a Hillsborough County Community Center was erected in honor of his servant leadership. Conversations with current Civic Council President like Linda Sweet Washington spoke of the concerns and community initiatives such as the community cleanup and block captain, support safer environment initiative, and bridge the gap between neighborhood renters and long-term residents. Another conversation with founding resident Shirley Griffin spoke to the annual community family reunion and how its early days of Progress Village had no streetlights and it was merely lit by the moon and stars and lightning clubs. Our action plan seeks to place the progress back into the greater Palm River area and provide sustainable solutions that allow this area residents to return to a time of resiliency, citizenship, community collaboration, and genuine pride.
Through our research, things that we noticed was a health disparity. As you can see up here, 81% of the area has health coverage. In comparison, down 10% less than a national. The first consideration you might take is that it's due to lack of access. Well, in the heart of the community is Tampa Family Community Health Center, as well as Palm River, otherwise known as Suncoast Community Health Center, where their mission is based in affordable health care for all. So with a sliding fee scale that starts as low as $15, focused on the number of individuals in your household, family income, as well as financial education on how to pay their services, regardless of your insurance background, education, or financial means. So with these resources and with their care spanning from adult family medicine, women's care, family planning, behavioral therapy, and much more, we identified that much of the issue is rooted in lack of means in terms of understanding the value of these resources in the community. And our solutions that we've developed are really based in identifying how do we create marketing campaigns? How do we go into the community and develop programs that speak to the people? So as you can see below here under our targets, our main goal is enhancing the quality of life, focused on the family unit, strengthening that. That'll be done through programs like cooking classes, healthy cooking classes, yoga, as well as leveraging partnerships with the Emmanuel P. Johnson Civic Center, located in the heart of the community as well. Once again, affordability, we notice, is not an issue in this specific scenario because the cost for the Emmanuel P. Johnson Center is a $10 a month cost. So as we spoke with families, such as Malcolm Collins, located in the heart of communities, a 13-year-old who attends Dowdale Middle School. The reason that he cannot attend there, though his mother would love to and sees the value in it, is due to transportation. Most of the kids that attend that center are only attending there because they're able to walk there right after school. So that leads to our next leg of our solution, which is transportation. We plan to incorporate a slew of shuttle services and systems that come by on the hour between the school locations, as well as our community engagement events that we will be doing throughout the year.
The second component of our Pillars to Progress program is education. The attainment of education is a gateway to wealth and self-sufficiency. It's something our ancestors were killed for, yet they fought for our rights to obtain it. In Tampa Bay, the share of Black youth with at least a bachelor's degree is 10% points lower than that of its white counterparts. Lack of access to quality tutoring and supplemental educational resources have created a disparity measure as it relates to the dropout rate. The students that are ages 16 to 24 who have not enrolled in school or have not obtained a high school diploma lack these necessary skills to be productive citizens in our society. Our Pillars to Progress mentorship and character development program will strive to bridge the gap and create connections between the elders and the youth to provide a sustainable community. This program will provide child care assistance, community-based mentorship and lifestyle enhancement educational activities. Fitness classes and healthy eating classes from community garden to table will fill our participants' bellies and allow for the opportunity for community center enhancements and youth educational experiences. Individuals and group tutoring sessions will be offered by our local community residents to combat the lack of access to digital resources, and only about 70% of our residents would have access to computer systems and broadband internet access. Our Progress Point Community Center would utilize a point system that allowed participants to accrue points as they completed community service activities.
So as we transition from the pillars of progress, we plan to develop a business incubator known as Pioneers of Progress, with the goal of developing free to low cost educational programs leveraged through business and local community partners. Some of those partners, for example, include National Association of Black Accountants to educate on tax filing and ways to minimize your taxes through your business. Other opportunities, examples include Tampa Black Business Investment Corporation, helping individuals to identify how do they set their business up for success? How are they able to leverage their business plans for funding and expansion of their business? You can see here some of our trainings focus on employee management and HR, as well as certifications to get women and minority-owned certifications throughout their business and labels. Additionally, we'll look to leverage networking opportunities to create that social capital within the community, as well as mentorship programs. Now, in the top left, you can actually see the Progress Village Shopping Center, which is actually owned and managed by the Progress Village Civic Council, which is a perfect example of reinvesting back into the community. Our goal is to take products of our business incubator programs that are hand-selected, Black-owned and operated to create a high-quality business complex owned by our local community. With the goal of circulating the Black dollar in our community, we must start with building generational wealth. By leveraging Black-owned assets, such as businesses, it also leads to other opportunities such as housing and home ownership.
Our Pathways to Progress program seeks to be a remedy for the many barriers of home ownership and the opportunity to acquire affordable subsidized housing. According to the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development, the median renter earning less than $15,000 a year has around about $410 a month to utilize for other household expenditures. Our Pathways to Progress short-term housing assistance program and Progress Estates long-term housing program will provide participants with up to 24 months of on-campus housing while they complete various portions of our workforce training certification program. Pathways to Progress participants would be able to leverage existing foreclosures and abandoned properties to acquire up to $75,000 in home renovation or home improvement loans. They will repay these loans over 20 years when they commit to residing in our local properties for a minimum of 10 years. Our Pathways to Progress affordable housing program will collaborate with Black-owned Noor Design and Development Company to rehabilitate and increase the size and values of existing family homes in the area. These efforts would garner the American dream of home ownership and foster sustainable generational wealth.
One key component of the Pathway to Progress program includes a way to support and grow income earning potential of our participants. At a poverty rate 5% higher than the state average, there's a great opportunity to leverage some additional strategic partnerships. Along with organizations like the Economic Development Council, we would look to establish remote hubs for skills training and development. These training sessions would encompass hands-on training as well as part-time temporary employment. The program selection process would encompass needs-based as well as criteria-based components. Additionally, it also includes a sliding income scale. Given the lack of physical financial institutions in the area, there is a need to promote financial health and wellness. To align to that need, we will be providing courses in household budgeting, including savings and investments, credit building, as well as credit repair. And to delve more into the budgetary concerns, Jasmine.
So as mentioned, project to life, which is known as Progress Point. You can see at the very top, you're taking into consideration our pillars of progress, which is where we're focusing more on the events and marketing space to be able to bring those programs to life. A large portion of those costs are really going to be done in the program itself, as well as operational and payroll. With that payroll, we plan to bring on board a marketing representative as well as a programs director who will be in charge of a volunteer committee in the area to help garner more participation in the events that we plan to put on. As well, and you can see also under miscellaneous that we'll have our shuttle service. Some of these are initial costs as well as ongoing operational costs to take people to and from events. Transitioning to our business incubator, Pioneers of Progress, we plan to leverage a large part of our funding through grants. As many of you know, through the last year and a half, with a lot of the racial injustice and inequities bringing to the forefront, a lot of companies have made promises of over $1 billion to be directed towards the Black community in particular. So we plan to leverage that since most of those have not been tangible quite yet of those promises. And then additionally, we'll need some cost to develop the tools, supplies, and the technology build out, ranging from microphones, conference rooms, and like I said, networking area to facilitate different programs. When it comes to our affordable housing, that will be split up into 2 different areas, which encompass Pathways to Progress, as well as Progress Estates. Pathways to Progress is our campus facility where we'll be purchasing a 5-acre lot. So that's why you see the $30 million in acquisition and construction costs. Of those construction costs, that's rooted in the average of $175 per square foot. We plan to have 100 units on campus. And then we have Progress Estates, which is for off-campus housing, for those who are in transition, for those who maybe are leveraging our rehabilitation loans, and while they're rehabbing their home, they need somewhere to stay. So we have several people we've taken into consideration. That also encompasses 100 units on off-campus housing. So when we take a look at even some of our payroll costs, we plan to hire leasing management agents. And then the last portion of what we'll put you to is our Pathways to Progress workforce training. That's where we're looking to form a lot more of those community partnerships, especially since our training is rooted in more of the technical institutions. So when we think about companies like Tampa Electric, right, and being able to leverage those partnerships, linemen, things of those nature that can come on board and help with our training. And then in terms of our staffing, we plan to hire 4 program facilitators, 2 administrative and enrollment individuals, as well as 2 financial educators to help with the increase in income and helping our trainees know how to manage that income when they're coming out of our program. The total cost to bring Progress Point to fruition is $53 million. And from here, we'll actually transition on to our Q&A.
We will now open the floor to Q&A from the judges, followed by general questions from the audience.
Thanks, I appreciate it. And great presentation. In that Progress Village, we have things that are similar to that in Tampa. I was wanting to know how the educational piece will be put into that. And I understand it's all part of the bigger picture, but could you expand on that more?
So with our Pillars to Progress educational program, it will be a focus on tutoring, and it would also be a focus on mentorship and just giving students the opportunity to enhance their lifestyle skills. We noticed when we were doing our different conversations with the neighborhood residents that there is an Emmanuel P. Johnson Center that's already readily available in the area, but the students and the children of the area do not have access. That lack of access is caused by, lack of transportation, child care assistance needs, and just working families who are just trying to simply strive and make it. So we wanted to foster those elders who may be retired or have extra time and they can delve back into the community to provide those equitable educational resources to those students through either tutoring, just simply watching those students while parents created their work schedules and help online and acquire more income. Like Jasmine stated earlier, the Emmanuel P. Johnson Center is only $10 a month, but those costs when people have about 5 or 6 children are too much monthly. So we would have a point system where those elders and those community residents could do things like going to our community garden and helping around our cleanup excuse me, our neighborhood rehabilitation program, they could foster those points, and instead of paying that $10 a month, turn those points in to offset those costs.
Great idea. Thank you so much and great presentation. When you had the slide up about the costs, the operational costs, I just want you to make sure that you consider that it's all inclusive and considerations are made for insurance costs for transporting children. Because that cost is going to escalate tremendously. So I don't know if you looked into, considered that, but when I looked at that, it seems to be kind of low when you look at those type of costs and the maintenance as well. And then in terms of the workforce piece, just want to make sure that you assess what are the gaps in the workforce. Was what you don't want to do is provide training and people still can't find jobs because it's not a need. So just make sure that you just see what are the needs, not only the current, but within the next 5, 10, 20 years, and then you train up for those needs. A great presentation. Thank you so much.
Completely agree with the previous two comments, and what I'm really fascinated with is that you're almost creating an entire new community. I mean, it's holistic in your approach, and that's really key. You need to also then find ways to tie in with the rest of that community so that it does support and honor and be used to really build up the side communities as well, because this is something that should lift a lot of boats around when you start getting some traction on that, especially the education piece. I love the entrepreneurial piece. I think this could be a real big hub for that, because everybody's got some skill sets that they can pull together and build part of that community is going to be really key. The affordable housing piece is unfortunately, with the cost of construction materials and all of that, that may be a little bit of a damper, but never let that damper your spirits or your goals or your sights, because there are other ways to overcome that. And just seeing when people start owning things, owning a house, putting their own time and energy and money into it, it really builds that sense of community. And especially when you get 4 or 5 of those houses filled with the same people in the same place at the same team, it's that community involvement that's really key. And the other piece is is all the transportation issues. I'm not too familiar with what is down there or how that can be built into unincorporated place, but I think you've got a rising star.
Thank you. We wanted to use that shuttle system just because the neighborhoods of Claremont, Palm River, and Progress Village, they're so close, but yet so far away. I grew up in Palm River off of 78th and Tidewater Court. Ron grew up in Progress Village, and although we were in the same educational settings, we did not know each other. So again, that lack of transportation and the neighborhoods being so far apart, it made the neighborhood lose its connectedness. So that's why we wanted in our housing rehabilitation program, instead of constructing new homes, to rehabilitate those old neighborhood homes that have been abandoned or foreclosed.
That's excellent. I agree with all the previous comments. You all did an excellent job. One thing I would consider is asking, maybe doing a survey at some point of the community to see how many business owners there actually are, in that community, because the business hub sounds like an amazing idea. But if there's also not a need for it, or if they don't even know that it's an option for them, it may be something that can be put on a leader to do. So this whole solution is very holistic, which is wonderful, but the timeline on it is 5 years. So, that's a lot to do in 5 years. And it may take that long just to, get the funds together, just being realistic. So I think, when you're looking at this plan, hyper focusing on one solution, one aspect of it that you can actually solve within the next 5 years is going to be really critical to actually seeing something come to fruition rather than trying to do the whole thing in 5 years.
Okay, we are taking questions from the audience now. All right.
Have you all looked at sourcing financial institutions to locate in that area? It's a food desert. it's a financial institution desert, you know, for conveniences to accomplish being a whole community. Did you get a chance to consider that with Suncoast, for example, if they have, or any of our financial institution partners, did you think about the possibility of inviting them to come in with a financial institution in close proximity or convenience, and you know, other kinds of services that communities need, just to make it more convenient to lifestyle?
As part of the Advancing Black Pathways program of JP Morgan Chase, we do provide those services now. Additionally, Jasmine is a financial planner, and she can also assist from her organization, as well as partnering with some of our fellow cohorts who are also in financial services. Relative to the food desert, one of the items that we touched on was expanding the current community garden. So currently there's a partnership with Mosaic, where they provide funds to help keep that ongoing, but we would look to expand that. And that's where you see the 50,000 expansion for that, to buy some additional equipment to expand.
Just to add to that, we also wanted to, like he said, expand the community garden, but utilize the current schools that are in the area to basically do school-based community gardens for those families to be in walking distance of those food resources, since there were not a lot of, grocery stores in there.
Just to touch on the financial piece, because you're absolutely right, it is a financial desert. There are no institutions at all outside of ATMs. So that is a part of between our business incubator and our campus, is to have rooms available for people to present on those topics. So be able to come in and educate, as you mentioned, on credit, on how to build wealth, how do you transfer it? Those are all things that are missing. And also lack of that also creates it just continues to propel from there. How do you get a business loan if you don't have those relationships? How do you know how to set things up? We heard from the prior group, just speaking, the young lady speaking on, nobody's ever told her how to open up a checking account. That's the different ways that it's going to continue to perpetuate, and that's what we're looking to incorporate in our campus housing.
And we have two questions from the virtual audience. First question, what e-learning helpmates can you offer and how, as many students now are falling behind from it?
Well, I was an e-learning teacher. Actually, I taught first grade, and that's one of the ways that our Pillars of Progress program seeks to combat that deficit. A lot of our e-learning students, especially our ones that are third grade or below, they need in-person for those sustainable, tangible resources that help them grasp that educational aspect that would come from being in the classroom. So we would offer, depending on whether or not those families were comfortable, the online component versus the in-person component at their leisure, a smaller group, so that we could sustain those or fill those educational.
Perfect. And we have it's more of a comment, but
I do have one follow-up question that made me think about it when you started talking about community gardens. Here in Tampa, the Encore development has the Meacham Urban Farm that was done. One of the things they're doing is bringing those resources, things that are coming from that garden or that farm and some of the other farms that they have, is to bring either people to this area to either get their vegetables and that sort of thing, or they'll have a truck come out to other neighborhoods. Maybe you could look for partnerships that bring those resources in weekly from a food truck instead of, the traditional and buying tacos or whatever. But to have the vegetable, farm to neighborhood direct kind of food trucks. That is a solution we've looked at in other parts of Florida where I've worked before. And would like to hear what you thought about it.
Currently, there is such a partnership with Feeding Tampa Bay. So every Saturday morning, they come into Progress Village and they deliver fresh vegetables at Victory AME Church. We would look to build upon that relationship and then look to expand. So thank you for that suggestion.
I also just wanted to add, in our Pillars of Progress programs, those elders would be able to help train those younger students how to take those community garden, produce and vegetables and actually take that and come into the home and cook a meal so that those kids could foster those life enhancements.
Yes, sir, Mr. Paris.
Good afternoon, and just an incredible presentation. I was just here thinking, I heard that, was it 53 million was the number? Sounds like a big number, but when you talk about a community that size, that's really not that big of a number. Were you any analysis done as to how to come up with the funding for that as relates to maybe federal grants or tax incremental programs like CRAs or things of that nature? Did you all look at any of that as a way of trying to figure out how we could fund that?
Yes, so currently, the Progress Village Civic Council is in the process of resubmitting grants. So due to COVID last year, a lot of the grant processes were held up or put on pause. So in speaking to Linda Washington, Delaney Pittman, Twanda Bradley, they have shared that they are working on the new submissions, and those should be coming soon. So in our continued partnership, we would have a better idea of what the true ask would be. So this is just our initial figure as it stands today.
And they are getting ready to complete a community needs assessment. It was basically talking about their disaster relief and some of those neighborhood beautification projects that they seek to accomplish. And that should be ready later this month.
Any more questions?
Okay, I believe that concludes our Q&A session. We will move to the next session.
Thank you.